Welcome, Fear Fiends, to the Chillergeist Horror League's most unsettling countdown. Today, we're ranking the top 10 most disturbing scenes from non-horror films, proving that true dread can be found anywhere. Boris, I can feel a delicious sense of dread brewing.
Affirmative, Doctor. This ranking is based on a comprehensive analysis of psychological discomfort metrics, unexpected violence coefficients, and iconic shock value. We project a high viewer disquiet index for the segment.
Kicking off our list at number 10 is the legendary crime film, Goodfellas.
The scene in question, designated as the funny how sequence, achieves a high psychological tension metric of 9.5. This is due to a sudden and unpredictable shift in emotional tone, from humor to extreme menace. The threat proximity to the characters, and by extension the viewer, increases by a factor of 1000% within a 60-second temporal window. The discomfort index is not generated by physical violence but by the perceived threat of imminent bodily harm. As the scene plays on social and emotional anxieties, the dialogue's repetitive nature creates a state of verbal disorientation, forcing the audience to process the potential for violence rather than its physical reality, making it a masterpiece of psychological terror. This scene's inclusion is a testament to the fact that the most disturbing moments can be purely mental.
Coming in at number 9, a scene so emotionally devastating it left a generation of children traumatized, from Toy Story 3.
This scene is ranked based on its unprecedented emotional impact within a designated children's film category. The survival probability index for all subjects drops to a statistical 0% within the scene's temporal framework. The viewer empathy score is at a maximum due to pre-established character bonds, resulting in a high viewer distress response. The scene subverts all conventional narrative safety protocols typically found in this genre, forcing the audience to confront themes of impending mortality and hopelessness. The visual of the subjects holding appendages while facing a fiery demise generates a high existential dread coefficient, making it a statistically significant anomaly in animated cinema. Its ability to create genuine, profound sadness and fear places it in the top tier.
Clawing its way to number 8, the brutal, bone-crunching terror from The Revenant.
The bear attack sequence is a masterclass in visceral impact. Its position is secured by its high physical brutality coefficient and perceived reality factor. The scene's sustained damage duration is a statistically significant outlier at 4.2 minutes of continuous high-intensity contact. This deviates from the typical cinematic portrayal of animal attacks, which often rely on quick, high-impact jump cuts. The kinetic force of the bear's assault is conveyed through a high-frequency camera shake and realistic sound design, resulting in a high viewer discomfort score. The viewer aversion metric for this scene is also statistically high, with a documented 20% of audiences averting their gaze during the sequence. Its raw, unromanticized violence makes it profoundly disturbing.
Taking a psychedelic plunge to number 7, the unsettling boat ride from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
This scene is classified as a psychological disorientation event. Its disturbance metric is a product of high narrative incongruity, as the scene's dark visuals and unhinged tone are a complete deviation from the film's prior family-friendly aesthetic. The auditory distortion provided by the off-key song and sudden tonal shift generates a high anxiety level in viewers. The visual content, including imagery of decapitation, bugs, and other grotesque figures, causes a significant cognitive dissonance, forcing the audience to reevaluate their expectations for the film. The scene's effectiveness is not in its core but in its surreal and jarring shift, which is a statistically significant method of generating terror from a benign starting point.
Galloping into the number 6 spot is the chilling classic, The Godfather.
This scene's ranking is derived from a high symbolic violence coefficient of 9.8. The threat metric is not based on direct physical harm but on psychological dominance and resource-based damage. The act of decapitating a thoroughbred, a resource with a documented market value of over $600,000, generates a profound sense of power and ruthlessness. The viewer discomfort is generated by the violation of a perceived sanctuary and the cold, unfeeling delivery of the threat. The scene is an iconic example of emotional over physical violence, where the implication of what could happen is more disturbing than an overt act of gore. This is statistically more effective for generating long-term dread than a typical physical injury event.
Making a shocking entry at number 5 is the heartbreaking supernatural drama, The Green Mile.
This scene ranks high on the emotional distress index and avoidable pain metric. The execution to termination process is intentionally prolonged, with a documented 4.1-minute period of sustained subject agony. The violation of protocol by the malicious executioner results in a high viewer anger metric, as the pain is a direct result of intentional sabotage rather than standard procedure. The sympathy-to-pain ratio is at its maximum, as the audience is aware of the subject's innocence and supernatural abilities, making his prolonged suffering a statistically significant source of viewer anguish. The scene's disturbing nature is a direct result of its unflinching, extended portrayal of extreme, human-inflicted suffering.
At number 4, the scene that scarred an entire generation of filmgoers, from Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
The Large Marge sequence is a prime example of a surprise-based discomfort metric. The scene's narrative subversion score is 10 out of 10, as it completely breaks the comedic tone and style of the film. The visually jarring claymation jump scare generates a statistically significant fight or flight response in viewers, particularly within a demographic that did not anticipate this type of horror. The transitional distortion from a gentle narrative to a grotesque visual is a powerful method of generating unease. The scene's effectiveness is not in its sustained violence but in its instantaneous, unexpected, and tonally dissonant act of visual terror, making it a classic case of genre violation. as a means of generating a disturbing effect.
Unleashing cinematic terror at number 3 is the iconic adventure, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Face melt scene is a high-ranking entry due to its superior special effects horrific metric and supernatural violence factor. The disintegration to death process is portrayed with a level of detail and realism that was statistically groundbreaking for its time. The scene's unsettling effect is a result of a methodical subject deconstruction, where the villain's faces are shown to melt in a gruesome and prolonged manner. This violates the typical adventure film protocol of clean, quick deaths, and instead exposes the audience to a graphic and disturbing display of divine punishment. Its iconic shock value and visceral impact are unparalleled, making it a high-yield producer of cinematic dread.
Stabbing its way to number 2, the infamous and audacious thriller, Basic Instinct.
This scene's position is based on a high shock-to-duration ratio. The event duration is statistically brief at 0.7 seconds, yet the viewer impact is immense due to the unexpectedness of the violence. The weapon's simplicity and the subject's calm demeanor during the lethal act generate a high disturbance metric. The scene's ambiguity index is also statistically significant, as the identity of the perpetrator is intentionally left unresolved, forcing viewers to process a highly violent act with no clear antagonist. This scene is a definitive example of shock value as a form of art, with a high perceived audacity rating in the historical context of cinema. The visceral and sudden nature of the violence ensures its place as a cornerstone of cinematic terror.
And now, the moment of ultimate dread. At number 1, a scene that redefined cinematic discomfort, from Unchien Analu.
The scene is statistically the most impactful on this list due to its extremely high visceral and psychological aversion metric. The event, the act of severing an eyeball with a razor blade, is a direct violation of viewer sanctuary and a high-yield producer of physical discomfort. This scene's ranking is also based on its conceptual longevity and its aesthetic intent. The scene is not a moment of narrative violence but an act of surrealist art designed purely to provoke a powerful, uncomfortable, and unforgettable physical reaction. Its disturbance index is directly proportional to its artistic purity, making it a statistically unparalleled example of cinematic dread. Its place at number 1 is a testament to its singular ability to create terror through pure imagery.